Silence after insult. When someone tries to provoke you, do not respond. Your silence will eat at their ego more than any comeback ever could. The 3-second eye contact rule. Hold your eye contact for exactly 3 seconds when someone challenges you. Not more, not less. It signals dominance without being aggressive. Never explain twice. Repeat yourself once, and if they ask again, simply say, "As I mentioned earlier." It sets the boundaries really fast. The power of pause, aka thinking before you speak. I feel like so many women struggle with this because we have a voice and we have so much to say. However, before answering, pause for 2 seconds. It gives your words more weight and makes people listen more closely. Also gives you time to really think about what you want to say thoroughly. The Hebrew word for react is ana, which comes from the root or, which is ani. Hebrew wisdom teaches that reactive behavior vibrates on the same frequency as poverty. But when we pause, choose to respond from fullness, we feel rich. And that's how the Creator operates. We should always operate, or at least try to operate, the same way.
I believe I've said this 1,000 times. There are times where, you do have to repeat yourself. It's just finding a technique to repeat yourself without draining your energy. When you have children, some kids might have hearing problems. Always wondering why one kid is not listening, one kid is not paying attention. Get deeper into finding out if they have hearing problems, if they're eating properly. Those are the first things. You can't. It's a start. It's a great thing to teach somebody how to do something just by telling them, but people need someone to show them how to do better. They don't see it, so it's harder for them to react or to act towards it. So that's why I believe that it's absolutely important to show rather than just tell. Not only that, also remind people that eating well. That's why I eat properly. I eat better, and I work on my physical health. It's not just holding in your anger is only going to make things worse for you in the end. And you have to choose yourself. In order, choosing yourself is like choosing everyone else, because you could be a great resource to the world, to the companies around you, to the people around you. Whenever I chose to try to commit suicide, I ended up suffering the consequences, even when it wasn't my fault. And many people did die because of the illnesses that they got. A lot of illnesses come from lack of proper eating, meaning if a disease comes, it's going after the body that already has a disease within it, because that's the body that's going to make the disease grow faster. So the plants that you guys eat are supposed to fight off the bacteria in your body and the bacteria around the world that comes from waste and just all different sorts of things. So to defend yourself, you have to walk around with a mask, and that's what the coronavirus was for. It wasn't just about coronavirus. It's about people passing by trash cans, then later not knowing why they're sick. People having sex with just anybody, then later not knowing why they're sick. Not every disease can be detected by the doctor. Not every disease is physical, or it could be a spiritual illness that comes from you sleeping and having sex with all these different partners and carrying their weight and carrying their energies, right? So definitely also, like, whenever you are under in the influence in a relationship and drinking and under the influence, that causes that makes you unable to control your anger and your frustrations and your emotions. And that also shows how, Quincy was trying to be strong in her relationship with Zach, even if she was hurt. And her anger came out of, just doing nothing, basically. Doing things that seemed like nothing, which were nothing. They were not informative, but it was probably because the biggest idea was her not feeling loved in the relationship that she was in with Zach. So she kept asking, do you want bigger balls or a small ball? Meaning, you prefer balls, you prefer men. I went there. I went there with Zach because I'm like, I thought you love me. I thought you cared. But Zach is, in Zach's head, he's like, I do care about you, but I put all this content out and showed myself in all this. He's failing to see that I'm in the healing stage, right? When you're in a healing stage, you can't force a person to work. And I've made it clear, I just came off the street 1 year ago. You've been indoors all your life. You've never been homeless, right? I've been dealing with poverty, poor people, nasty situations, coronavirus, different. I've never had coronavirus, but I was around people, all this. I was dealing with so many cases without even being a caseworker. And then coming back in, it's like, it felt like I rebuke it. I don't even want to say I caught anything, but it just, there's a spiritual disease that came over me that it took me 8 years to beat. And coming back to Zach, if I'm, highly sexually active, it's because he triggered me and he put that in me. Even if when I first saw him and Quincy, my intentions were not, oh, let me, I want to have sex with Zach. Look at him. I was just looking at all different reasons why I don't like him. I was like, oh, his head's a little too big. He can't be the one. I was just looking for things that made me turn off, like, or this and that. Just not to insult him, but that's just the way my mind is. It's probably me trying to run from commitment. Or I just saw a relationship and I said, I'm not gonna, I was like, oh, they're happy. So I also started dating. I also started commenting and writing serious, important comments. It's like, why don't you feed him better? Why don't you? Because I'm a vegan. That's the first thing I'm going to say is, hey, this is a really handsome guy and he looks great. Don't you think, why don't you give him better food? And, have you ever tried? So women, when they see somebody outsmarting them, they kind of feel intimidated, and it's probably why they deleted, or maybe he deleted the content, or I don't know. And he probably deleted it because he felt like, oh, so like you're not interested, like you're not, like you're just gonna talk about it and you don't feel anything between us. I didn't at the time, and because my soul was sleeping. I I learned to defend myself. I had fallen for handsome guys and ended up with my face on the floor. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. So when it came to Zach, I was very cautious. And there was this other guy that I had fallen for so instantly that I was like, okay, I was like, I'll just live with this. He started to share content with me, and I embraced that. But then he got upset and started deleting the content. And I was like, okay, well, if your balls are not big enough to stay online, then I don't know what, so I stuck with him for a while. I wasn't even thinking about Zach. I was just thinking about that guy. But then Zach came to me. Zach said something to me like, do you know who this is? Or in the comments, but secretly. And then I was like, oh yeah. He's like, this is Ken. He called himself Ken. And I'm like, oh yeah, hey, but I knew it was Zach, or I said Zach, and he was just basically saying, call me Ken, not Zach. So that we can keep that little secret conversation going, and for a while it was just I didn't think I was going to fall for Zach. I was falling in love. I was in love with the other guy. I had fallen for the other guy, and I was okay with sticking. He was hurting me too, but it was more like emotional pain and just saying the dumbest shit ever. And I was just like, this is crazy. And so, yeah, but now I just don't really want to talk to Zach, because I feel like if you need somebody to help you, I think you should help them first, especially when they're making it clear that they're not financially stable. They don't have enough money for this, but you just want to take everything from them. You want to take, and I do understand that when a man's hurt, he wants to find the one thing that's helping you feel better. He wants to take that away so you can feel his pain, or so he can feel better, because he wasn't in a very comfortable position, as we all assume. But it could be